So a while back, another YouTuber by the name EmpLemon made a video dedicated to YouTube thumbnails. He goes over the history of custom thumbnails, explains some of the more technical aspects involved with them, and details the process of creating the thumbnail for one of his most recent videos. The video was really insightful, and I feel like it helped me improve my thumbnails as evidenced by my most recent one, but the main part of the video I wanted to focus on is this one.
Oh, by the way, I just wanted to add here that there's a theory going around the YouTube community that changing your thumbnails on existing videos can help boost performance in the algorithm. I've never tried this personally, so if anyone has any evidence of this actually working, I'd be really interested to hear about it.
Not wanting to pass up the opportunity for free views, I decided to put this to the test by changing the thumbnail of one of my videos. The one I chose was one where I talked about a copypasta involving a character from the Fire Emblem franchise, and as you can probably tell from the game's anime aesthetic, it's not a very pleasant copypasta.
Does she shower? I bet she doesn't.
I chose this video for two reasons. The first is that it was the most positively received video at the time. The video has a really good ratio of likes to views, especially in comparison to the video following it, which had significant audio balancing issues. But the second reason is that Fire Emblem is the perfect topic to test this with. The series is niche enough for videos from smaller creators to be easily noticed by the fandom, but it's also big enough for there to be a significant audience. This has resulted in many up-and-coming Fire Emblem content creators exploding in popularity, most notably Blazing Knight and Pavis Productions. If it was true that changing a thumbnail gave me more views, the results would be easier to notice. The video's initial thumbnail put an image of the character the copypasta was about and a screen cap of the copypasta in question over a fiery background. However, there are two major flaws with this thumbnail. For starters, the image of the character should have been larger since it could be hard to see on a mobile phone, but this isn't nearly as bad as the copypasta portion, which was even smaller. At least with the Bernadetta image, you can still identify it in spite of its size, but the copypasta doesn't even have that luxury, as you can barely make out what words are there unless you zoom in on it. With the new thumbnail, I made the image of the character larger and replaced the image of the copypasta with text referencing the "anime was a mistake" meme. Not only is it easier to see, but it also establishes the video's purpose of making fun of weeaboos. Lastly, I played around with the saturation of the background to draw more attention to both the image and the text. So that brings us to the main question: will changing the thumbnail result in more views? Probably not, but it's hard to tell. If we look at the video's views, the first day had the most, as you could probably expect, with a total of 186. The second day had 46 views, the third day had 16, and not a single day after that made it to the double digits, even after the thumbnail changed. So if we're going by the video views, the answer would be no, but there's other stats that could be used, namely the amount of impressions received. After all, it could be possible that while I received a boost in the algorithm because I switched the thumbnail I chose fucking sucked and deterred people from actually clicking on the video. The impression data for the first 2 days followed a similar pattern as that of the views. I should mention that contrary to what you'd expect, the amount of impressions on the video was actually lower than the amount of views. This is because most of my viewership comes from me shamelessly plugging my videos on external sources, which would count for views but not for impressions. Up until the approximate date of the thumbnail change, the average amount of impressions was in the 30s. However, after the thumbnail change, the amount of impressions dropped to the 10s and stayed within that value before briefly increasing when I released another video and then going back to the 10s. If we're going by views, there's not much correlation between the switch in thumbnail and the amount received, but if we're going by impressions, there's actually a negative correlation. You can chalk this up to the natural decay in the amount of impressions, but it could also be possible that YouTube's algorithm penalized the switch in the thumbnail. People will most likely bring up the cases where a change in the thumbnail resulted in increased viewership. However, I personally believe that these changes come from the thumbnails themselves rather than from YouTube's algorithm. There's many instances where a new thumbnail could get more clicks even without a boost in the algorithm. You could change it to be more consistent with the thumbnails of newer videos, but you could also change it to reference new things related to the source material. At the end of the day, there is no inherent positive benefit from changing your thumbnail. Or is there? Before I end, I want to bring up some potential confounding variables. The first is that I was just unlucky. In statistics, there's a concept called the central limit theorem, where if the sample size decreases, there's a greater chance of the results of said sample being inconsistent with the actual value in the population. Since I only changed the thumbnail once, it's likely that I got inconsistent results. Another possible issue is that the new thumbnail could have fonts. I definitely feel like I could have used a better font. While I was in the process of scripting this video, I once again changed the thumbnail to one that forgoes the text entirely and also makes use of a motion blur. If anything interesting happens, I'll make an update video. Lastly, it could just be that my channel isn't suited for these types of tests. My viewership is incredibly limited, especially if you exclude viewers that come from external sources. sources. A channel that gets more views from suggested videos and similar sources would probably have more data to work with. That's all for today. Now if you excuse me, I have to get back to begging for views as well as likes and subscriptions.